If you've clicked onto this video, you might be feeling a little bit like me and you don't know how to start learning watercolor. Maybe you've already got some supplies, you're feeling a little bit behind, it's a little bit overwhelming. You might have some vague goals of, I want to be better at watercolor like me, but it doesn't really translate into any actual progress. For example, you might be procrastinating on starting to learn watercolor. You might have all of your paints and things set up around you, but you're still not quite getting over this weird mental barrier. And it's just like a new medium to you. It is to me as well. So these aren't tips from an expert, these are tips from somebody who is also probably struggling with this problem, which is not having the guts to learn a new medium. I'm also learning how to draw with digital art, and I feel like I've made some progress with my digital art. I'm not exactly where I want to be yet, but with watercolor, I have this weird mental block that only things that I want to paint are characters and character design. So for watercolor, I feel like I have to do a lot of drawing skills and lining skills before I can actually experiment with watercolor. So I have been procrastinating about learning watercolor techniques because I don't really want to experiment, which is such a silly thing because obviously to learn watercolor, experimentation must be the best thing. So in this video, I'm going to do some overhead shots of me just diving into watercolor without having any idea what I'm doing. I've watched a few tutorials online about techniques such as like wet on wet and wet on dry. So I'm just going to try and experiment and practice with one of my new watercolor palettes that I got recently to kind of push myself to take a creative leap and get over the fear of starting my watercolor art journey, which I've been procrastinating on for a really long time. So I'm going to switch to an overhead view and talk a little bit while I do some random blob paintings or maybe just swatch my new watercolor palette. And yeah, so let's go. Okay, so welcome back. I'm going to use this Holbein artist watercolor set that I put into a little travel palette. They're in tubes as well, so this is what I'm going to be using today, just swatching these 12 colors and trying to maybe paint something new, maybe just try a few different techniques on this sort of small watercolor thing that I have. It's 250 GSM, and yeah, I've done some things here in the past for watercolor, but they're just like little postcards. And I was watching this other watercolorist YouTube channel, I'll put it in the description. I forgot their name at the moment, but yeah, they recommended starting really small, as in like surface area for the watercolor paper that you're using. Start small, it's just like easier and like less overwhelming, I guess. So this is what the paint set looks like. I talk a little bit more about it in another video, which is on my channel. I'll try and link it here, otherwise it will probably come up at the end of this video, so watch to the end for that. But yeah, I'm just gonna go through, swatch these, try and use this little palette space as well to try and mix things and see if a mini palette is actually worth using. I do have some bigger palettes as well that I also have the same paints in at the moment, which is this one. It was just like a Meeden brand on Amazon. It's an aluminium pan, a little bit bigger, which has half pans in it, and these are some pastel colors as well that are opaque, but I'll save them for another video. And yeah, I just kind of like this little travel palette because it fits neatly into the frame of YouTube videos. So yeah, I have my water cups ready to go. They're off camera, they're sort of like foldable ones, but yeah, I will be using them, and let's just dive in and get over my fear, or your fear together, of starting to learn watercolors, because yeah, I feel like it might be intimidating at first, but if you start really small, even if it's just like swatching colors like I am, it has to be better than nothing, right? So yeah, let's see what happens. Okay, so like the little travel palette has this nice little area that you can use to get the colors onto, so I might like try putting them onto here first and then swatching them. First of all, I'm gonna try like wet on dry and just see how pigmented these are and see what happens on the paper. Okay, so there's only 12 colors in this palette, so it should be fairly easy to swatch all of these in one go. You only need 12 little spaces on this tiny paper. But so far, like, it looks really pretty. I've used cheap watercolors in the past. These ones were about, I think, like 70 or 80 Australian dollars, which is not too bad for 12 palette. How do you call them? Like 12 tubes of watercolor. And so far, like, it seems a little bit higher quality than the cheap ones that I used before. I like the color, it looks nice. I like that when it dries, I don't know if you can see it that well on the camera, but it leaves a little bit of an outline as well, which is really pretty. The colors seem super nice to use from wet on dry, which is basically for anybody that is even more watercolor beginner than me out there, is when you use I guess like the wet paint straight onto the paper in a dry way. Okay, that doesn't make sense, but like basically you don't wet the paper before you put watercolor pigment onto it, is called wet on dry, I believe. Someone please correct me if I'm making a mistake. I am not an educational channel yet. I'm literally in the beginner stages, but it just thought it'd be fun to kind of go through a basic exercise, if you can even consider swatching an exercise. Oh wow, this black is like so pigmented. Okay, very interesting. When I was looking in the palette before, I didn't actually know whether that was just like a dark green, but yeah, it ended up being a black. But yeah, let's go to the blue next. I guess it's like a dark blue. But yeah, it's super pigmented and doesn't even need that much water to activate the paint once it's been squeezed out of the tube. So I feel like for $70 or $80 or however much it was, this is quite like a bargain. Like I feel like this is gonna last me forever. Like these mini tubes, I barely squeeze like a pea size amount out into each of the little dishes, and it's, I don't know, I feel like I could use this for a really long time, and it's definitely worth the money to me to be able to have such like quality palettes, hopefully lasting a really long time as well. Oh my god, this blue is so pretty. Okay, so I'm going to go into the slightly more lighter blue now. I'm having to whisper a little bit because one of my housemates is home and I don't want them to know that I'm recording a YouTube video and they're yelling. Okay, so let's swatch this one. I think one of the things that happened in the past was I really wanted to try watercolors, and I bought like a lot of watercolor palettes and paper, and didn't really get that much of a chance to use them. Mostly because I didn't have like the best workspace. So recently I revamped my desk a little bit, made some more space for me to be able to actually use all of the paints and I guess like drawing, mostly painting, mostly watercolor painting tools in that space. And yeah, I just feel much happier with a cleaner, bigger workspace. It's more open as well, and yeah, it's I guess it got me to finally film this first watercolor video on my channel, so I think it served its purpose. I used to work from home using this desk space, and it wasn't really set up for creative use, so there wasn't that much surface area for me to paint on or use for things like that. So now it's a lot better, and yeah, I just have more, I guess, freedom to move my arms, set up paint and things, and still use my computer. Oh wow, that red is very pigmented. It's so pretty. So yeah, the water control that I have over my brushes is not very good yet, I would say. I'm still learning how much water to even put in the pans and onto the palette itself, and also on my brush before I go and take it and put it on the watercolor paper. So I'm learning as I go. If you have any comments, if you're an experienced watercolorist, leave them below for me. I would love to get more help and information from people that are further along in their watercolor painting journey. It's always useful for me. So yeah, and I think if there's other beginners watching this as well who are just starting out, it would be useful for them too. So yeah, just leave it in the comments below. Okay, let's try this new sort of like skinny beige color. Okay, this one is a little bit more subtle. I don't really see the water effect for that one as much. I'm not sure if it's because it has like white pigment in it at all, or maybe I just didn't use enough water on my brush. But yeah, let's go in with this sort of, I guess this is like a pinky purple color. Okay, kind of like magenta. This palette area is a little bit small, but like I feel like it's cute. I like the look of it. Let's go in with a little bit more water maybe for this one. Oh yeah, it's very bright. I like the color. And then, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, we're at the last one already, so the little light pink one. So this will be the last of the swatching for this palette. This one. For the wet on dry technique. And then I'm going to try going in with the same brush, which is just like a sable hair one, a size 0. I have no idea what the sizes mean, but it's pretty fine-ended one. I'm not sure if you can tell, but yeah. So the next step, I'm going to be wetting the paper before I put the pigment down and seeing how the swatches spread. So this is called wet on wet. So you go in, put the water down first, and then you take the pigment. I might try and take the pigment from here instead of the pan directly and see what happens. Maybe I'll do like 1 drop from there on the left, and then I'll take 1 drop from the actual paint pattern for more pigmented to drop into the right hand side and see how it dries, just to kind of test, I guess, how diluted it has to be for the pigment to spread properly for wet on wet technique. I have to let you know that I literally am an absolute beginner with this, so like I'm just doing the 2 most basic techniques that I've learned online, which is like wet on dry and wet on wet. Okay, so let's go in with this color, darker green, and plop it in. I'm not sure for wet on wet if you should paint the entire surface or just drop it in, but I'm kind of just dropping it in to see how pigmented it will become on each side and see how the paint spreads, because it's interesting to me. I don't think there's any like right or wrong way to experiment with watercolors. For me, I'm just trying to get myself into the process of using my paints, having them set up a little bit, doing things with them, and trying to make it easier for myself to be more creative with the paints. I feel like with my iPad it's a little bit easier to get into. I'm so used to using Procreate for digital art, but with traditional art so far, it's taking a little bit more time and courage for some reason for me to experiment with and film myself trying it out. So yeah, I think just like diving in with something super basic like swatching, like in this video. Oh wow, that black ink is really cool. Helped me a lot just to get over the fear of making YouTube videos. This is like a very new YouTube channel to me. I've tried YouTube in the past for various art and non-art related channels, and I kind of always gave up because I would go back to my corporate job or just stop. Oh no, I forgot to put water on the paper first. But yeah, I would usually just like give up on my channels, and this time I really want to take it slow, try a more creative and methodical approach to not only filming YouTube videos but creating the content and learning to draw and paint as well. I think in the past I would always wanted to kind of rush the process maybe, which I don't think is a very good idea. Sorry, my housemate is screaming again and I don't know why. Yeah, awkward. This is why I want to get a little travel palette so I can go and record my videos in a cafe and not have to deal with somebody who slams doors for no reason. I'm not really sure what's wrong with them. I probably should have thought out this process a little bit more, because I'm running out of space on the paper compared to the wet on dry technique spot. But can do whatever works. Sorry for the random noises, I'm not sure why some people tend to be so loud. I'm literally whispering into the microphone, but anyway, I digress. So I really like these blue colors in the palette so far. Like, they definitely like stand out to me as like the most, I guess, like cute colors in the palette. Not that the other colors aren't, oh my god, sorry. Not that the other colors aren't cute, but I really like the way they look. So we have, I think, 6 more or 7 more to swatch for this. Let's do the light blue next. So yeah, let me know what you think of these palettes. Have you used Holbein paints before? It's my first time using them properly, and so far, like, so good. I like the way that they look. Okay, let's try the light blue. I guess these would be really good for like maybe like sky painting or like underwater painting. Like, the blues look so pretty. Yeah, light blue. But yeah, also let me know if you guys have been in living situations where you're living with people that are like super noisy or just like a little bit rude sometimes. How do you deal with it and not take their moods personally, especially if what they are yelling about or being passive aggressive about is not anything related to you, and you know that like you're doing the right things? How do you like not let it affect you? How do you maintain those emotional boundaries when sound travels through walls and their moods tend to affect me a little bit? If you have any tips for that, even though this is an art video, please leave it in the comments. It's something that I struggle with, and something that makes me want to, I guess, like, get out of the house more so I can just like paint in a more peaceful environment, which could be outside. It's summer here right now in Australia where I live, and yeah, it's a little bit hot to go outside. Like, I can go to places with air conditioning and stuff like that, but yeah, it would be nice to like have a place to myself so I can peacefully do this stuff. But yeah, that's what happens when you have situations where it's not ideal. I know what it's like. Oh, that red pigment keeps surprising me every time. So yeah, I really like this little palette. Oh, what happened to the other colors? I'm so confused. Anyway, I guess this dried up, or I just didn't put it on there or something. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Okay. My mind is getting too distracted from the process. I think I wanted to swatch this one on here. Maybe I never put it on there. I'm a little bit too lazy to rewind the footage later and see if I never put this one on here, but maybe it dried up. Not really sure. Oh, okay, so the red one is just super pigmented. Okay, after the red one, let's go into the yellow one for wet on wet. Take a bit from the pan, put it on the left side. So pretty. But yeah, compared to digital art so far, I've found watercolor and just traditional mediums in general to be more, a little bit like soothing, a little bit meditative. I feel, oh no, did I not put water on there? Whoops. I feel a little bit like it's less control, but that's what makes it fun with watercolor. With digital art, you have a lot more, I guess, flexibility with how you paint, and I like that watercolor kind of forces you to let go a little bit, embrace the patterns of the pigment in the water. I think it's really fun. Okay, how many colors left? 2 more to go. So let's go in with this deeper magenta color. Oh wow, it's really pretty how the water mixes. I think that this was the magenta for here. It's still quite pigmented, so I can't really tell the difference on the half of that one.
I'm coming!
Sorry for the yelling, that was my housemate again, who somehow needs to announce to the world everything that's going on at a super high volume. Humor is my only way to cope. Okay, and for the last one, we have pink at the bottom. Okay, and that's it. It's so pretty, the last one as well, this pink. Okay, so I'm going to try and show the camera a little bit. So this is how it ended up looking. I really like it. I think like this side is the wet on dry and this side was the wet on wet, so you can kind of see how the ink and pigment changed when placed into wet paper and droplets. I think once it dries it will probably look a little bit different as well. This one kind of looks like Australia shaped. But yeah, I hope that this was maybe like, I don't know, I don't think it really counts as ASMR or anything, but I hope that this was calming or soothing or something, or just kind of inspired anybody who is like literally in my spot as a complete beginner with watercolor to just try and get over the fear of even starting by doing something simple like swatching your palettes or something like that. For me, it helped me try two of the basic techniques, wet on dry where you put the wet brush onto dry watercolor paper, and wet on wet where you put some water onto the paper first and then drop the pigment in to get a different effect that you can see here. And yeah, those were just like two of the basic things that I thought I needed to try and push myself to do to get over my fear of not only filming myself learning watercolor, but learning the watercolor process in general. And yeah, if you want to check out this mini travel palette, there's a link for it in my description link as down below as well. It's really cute. I like the space here. Pretty sure it's pretty easy to clean off with just like a tissue or some wet wipe, or I'm not sure if I want to run it underwater just because I'm not sure what this wood is like, but yeah, it seems treated. But yeah, it's really good. This palette, the Holbein Natsuki or summer collection for character illustrations specifically, is really beautiful. I love the cover art. The palettes, how do I say, like the paint tubes themselves were really worth it in my opinion. They look small, but they hold like a lot of pigment. Like to get these little dollops out, it was really only like a tiny little indentation in the tube to get that much out, so I feel like it's going to last a really long time. The colors are really beautiful. I'm not sure if this is the highest quality watercolor paper, so I might try it on a like more expensive watercolor paper in the future and see what happens, if there's a difference in how vibrant the colors are or something like that. But yeah, this was just to kind of get myself out there on YouTube, but also starting to paint more and figure out a way to organize my desk that makes sense for watercolor painting, as I'm predominantly doing digital art before this, but I really want to balance it out to be like 50-50 with my digital art and watercolor. So yeah, I don't know if it's interesting, but I can show you the water at the end. This was the one that I was using. It's quite muddied, and then the fresher water one just looks like this in the blue. And yeah, this paintbrush was pretty easy to use and control, so yeah, I would recommend it. It's just a sable hair one. And yeah, I hope that this was useful. I'm going to go into the front camera view to film a little outro thing, but yeah, bye! And we're done. So this is the final result of the watercolor palette test. It's really pretty. This side is the wet on wet and the opposite side is the wet on dry. And yeah, I really like this palette. Let me know what your thoughts are as well. And if you have any suggestions for gaining confidence using watercolor paints in general, painting on YouTube, I don't really feel super confident yet, but I really wanted to try this like beginner basic technique vlog and just swatching to get used to using my watercolor palettes and just like seeing how it goes. I'll probably try to do something a little bit more involved and creative for the next one. But yeah, if you like this video, please leave a comment and subscribe if you'd like to see more art videos on this channel. I want to put content out about watercolor art and digital art as well, and also just like learning to draw in general and build a creative life for myself, as I left my corporate job recently and I just want to go all in on art. So yeah, I hope this was useful in some way, and let me know what you think about the palette as well. Have you used this brand as well before? Would you consider using it in the future? I really like it. I think like it's good for certain illustrations with this type of color palette. It's very vibrant and like summery. And yeah, I guess that's it for this video. I'll see you next time. Bye!